I have to admit I was a little bit surprised to see some of the recent reports about Roger Goodell's about to get paid to the tune of $200 million over 5 years reportedly. That's $40 million a year to basically be the owner's liaison and to be the CEO of the NFL, a non-profit. Imagine that. The NFL is a non-profit. $200 million for Roger Goodell. And look, I've said plenty in the past, as have many others, about the reasons not to like Roger Goodell. He has a lot of fundamental characteristics that make him inherently unlikable, which makes him such a great heel, and you see that play out every year at the NFL draft. But even with all the stuff about the CTE and other retired players issues and how it's been handled by the league, and at times they've seemed to kind of sweep it under the rug and try to lie about it, the way people don't like that Roger Goodell has tried to address safety in a way that they feel has negatively impacted the overall quality of play in the league, taking a lot of the fun out of the no-fun league. On top of that, the diminishing quality of the product on the field has been an issue for many. The way he has handled the off-the-field incidents, in particular domestic violence, has not been a shiny gold star in the Roger Goodell tenure as NFL commissioner. There is, again, reasons to fundamentally not like the guy and some of the things that he's done. And I've talked about him in the past. But with that said, it's important to keep in mind that Roger Goodell serves at the leisure of the owners. He is the representative for the owners when it comes to the league. And it is important to look from the perspective of the owners when it comes to determining whether Roger Goodell deserves a contract extension. Because I think if you look at it from the owner's perspective, which again is all that matters, even with some of the negative PR that's come through the NFL in recent years on a variety of issues like CTE, like domestic violence, you have to look at it from the owner's standpoint, because that's all that matters here, because that's who Roger Goodell serves. And when you look at Roger Goodell's tenure now, we're almost 11 years in. He's assumed office, I believe, in September of 2006. There is a laundry list of loud and proud accomplishments that the NFL owners can hang their hats on and they're profiting off of. Roger Goodell helped get the rookie salary cap installed during the 2011 lockout. He got the players' union to make a major concession, which was not helpful to the players per se. It might have been good for the veteran players because now you weren't having rookies come in that weren't established, that didn't do anything, getting paid more than veterans. But it was a really big boon to owners who sat there and paid their rookies a lot less as unproven commodities, and also on top of that, didn't have to worry about the bad PR that came with contract holdouts or agents trying to hold their coals to the fire and trying to get the maximum amount of money they can. They brought some cost certainty, and it brought some certainty that you draft these guys, are going to be in camp right away. It was a big win for the owners. You've got new stadiums in 6 markets, including the one that's going to open, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta this year, even though that seemed kind of inherently unnecessary. You got it. The one in Minnesota last year. You've got other stadiums in major markets like New York and Dallas. I mean, that's a big win for the league anytime you get a new stadium. You've now got the league is on 5 different networks: Fox, CBS, NBC, ESPN, the NFL network. That's 5 networks. And they own Sunday, just like church does. And in fact, more people don't go to church because of the NFL than don't watch the NFL because of church. That's just the way I see it. But you own Sundays, you own Monday nights, and you own Thursday nights. So 2 other nights of the week you own. It's crazy. And one thing Goodell doesn't get enough credit for, I think, is being very forward-thinking in a lot of his things. You've expanded the league's social media presence to include streaming games live via Twitter last year, and I believe Amazon's going to be a part of it this year. You've got several games taking place in London each year as an attempt to expand the NFL Shield's international presence, which is vital to the continued growth and sustainability of the league. You've talked about a guy who was forward-thinking enough to take the draft into different locations like Chicago and then this year Philadelphia, and that, I think everybody can agree, has been a rousing success because it takes the draft to a whole different level. He changed the format, mind you, as well, of getting the draft over 3 nights, Thursday night, Friday night, and then during the day Saturday, instead of the old Saturday, Sunday, all-day, 2-day stuff. He got 2 nights during the week of primetime exposure where his draft can be front and center on a major cable network like ESPN and then the NFL network as well. Genius, taking it on the road. Now you've got cities bidding for the right, the honor to host the NFL draft. It's a way to get to fan bases that might not be able to attend the draft in any other way. It increases that footprint and that emotional connection of fans to the league and to these new players. He's been able to get the Combine to take off to a whole different level. And the Combine's always been a big deal during my lifetime, but the Combine is a whole different monster in and of itself. You got the NFL Network that covers all of it. It's a whole different thing. And at some point in time, he's going to come to his senses and realize we can start charging people admission to this, and people are going to come, and eventually we'll be able to fill Lucas Oil Stadium with 50, 60,000 people to watch the Combine. And it's going to happen at some point in time. You've got two teams now that are in the Los Angeles market. A big red spot in the era of Tagliabue was that the Los Angeles teams left Los Angeles, the second biggest media market, the second biggest population base in the United States. Goodell's got not one but two teams to go back. Two of them. He got the Rams to go there and the Chargers to go there. On top of that, he got a marquee franchise like the Raiders to move to Las Vegas. He didn't fight it forever. He knew at some point in time, if somebody else doesn't do it, he needs to do it. Or if he doesn't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And he made sure he got a franchise in Las Vegas. So now you're going into a whole different market on top of going back to the second biggest media market in the country. And then looking at it from an owner standpoint with all these moves and all these things that are being done, the league's revenues in 2006 were $6.54 billion. And that's billion with the B. That is a lot of damn money. 11 years later, the estimates for 2017 are north of $14 billion. So in just over a decade, the revenues of the league have doubled. And that is during Roger Goodell's tenure as commissioner. And you can't say that he hasn't had some small part or some major part to play with getting teams into major media markets like Los Angeles, getting new stadiums in places like New York and Dallas and so on, increasing the revenues for these cities, Atlanta being a notable one, Minnesota last year being another notable one. The expansion of television presence, the increasing revenue from television deals, merchandising, licensing, all these things. And when you look at it from an owner's standpoint, you've got a goal set by Goodell of $25 billion in revenue in 2027. And while that is an ambitious number, and that's 10 years away, and that means you would have to almost double your revenues in another 10-year stretch, it's a pretty big stretch goal. It's not completely undoable, but even if you fall short, even if in 10 years your league revenues are only at $20 billion, that is still a $6 billion increase compared to what they are today. The point being is the owner's still going to get paid, and they going to get paid more and more. And then on top of that, you look at the increase in valuations, like when Forbes does their list of franchise valuations every year, it's an estimate based off a variety of factors. It doesn't mean it's 100% accurate or perfect, but it's pretty damn close, and we can use it as a good gauge. And you look at the Dallas Cowboys, perhaps the marquee franchise in the NFL. Their valuation by Forbes in 2008 was $1.6 billion. Now, mind you, since then, you've added that shrine to Jerry Jones's ego, AT&T Stadium, so that helps significantly with a venue that can hold 100,000 people for a football game. But you look at the Cowboys' valuation heading into 2017, it's $4.2 billion. A $2.6 billion increase. And the stadium is a big part of that, but it is not the entirety of that. And we can look at another team in a major media market, a legacy franchise, a marquee franchise in a way, in the Chicago Bears, who have had a lot of bad years over the past decade. Believe me, I know. But they had their new stadium before Goodell ever took over, even though it was just plopping a spaceship and some Roman columns. But the Bears' valuation in 2006 was $945 million as an organization, just south of $1 billion. Still a lot of money in 2006, great. A very valuable franchise. In 2016, their valuation as a franchise, just 10 years later, 10 years of Goodell, is $2.45 billion. That is a $1.5 billion increase without a new stadium, without any seat expansions, without any of that. So that is more a direct reflection of what Goodell has been able to do as the NFL commissioner is when you look at the Chicago Bears and their valuations, and you see this play out all throughout the league. So I ask you, if you are an NFL owner, even with some of the negatives that go along with the Goodell, even if you're somebody like Jerry Jones or Robert Kraft and you're butthurt about things that he directly did to your team, or you don't like the way other things are handled, do you think it is worth $200 million over 5 years to get all of the things that Roger Goodell's leadership has in no small part helped to bring you, and knowing that it could bring you more and more importantly, more profits in years to come. Does Roger Goodell deserve a contract extension? Yeah, damn right he does. And if you were an owner of the NFL and you didn't think he did, then at this point in time, personally, even with all the stuff I've said about Goodell in the past, I think you're crazy and I think you're a terrible business person. To invest $40 million a year into a guy where everybody's splitting the pot on this to help pay for it. So you're not paying $40 million yourself. You're spreading that throughout 32 teams and other revenue streams, what have you. So you could sit there and make an argument that even if you split that $40 million amongst 32 teams, would you pay a little over $1 million a year to see your organization's value increase over $1 billion over the next 5 years, which is going to happen with a lot of these teams? Would you do it? Abso-freaking-lutely, and you wouldn't blink and you would smile when you wrote out the check because you would think you got a tremendous bargain. And for all of those, and I completely understand and get it, that are going to sit there and complain about Roger Goodell getting paid far more than the highest paid player in the league, well, let me put it to you this way. Yes, the league needs its players, but based off of the leadership of Goodell and his people that he ultimately serves at their leisure, which are the owners, who is more valuable to them from a bottom line standpoint? Is it a Derek Carr or is it a Roger Goodell? Ultimately, the proof is in the pudding that it is Roger Goodell. He is worth more money to the league than Derek Carr, at least from the owner's perspective. And frankly, they are absolutely correct because, again, the proof is in the pudding. Now, you can chime in if you think Goodell deserves his contract extension or not, and that's fine. You might have your reasons you don't think so. You have your reasons surely that you think so. But I know this much. He absolutely deserves it as a businessman because he's meant some big-time financial gains for every franchise in the National Football League.